Welcome along once again to the Cardiff City phone-in and another really good panel lined up for tonight. Vince Alm, firstly, thanks very much for joining us. Always good to get you on.
Good evening. Yes, nice to be on you and find the time to be on you, Steve.
Yeah, it's great. Well, we very briefly saw each other before the match on the weekend. I think you were
Yeah,
pretty busy at the sports club.
as
Uh,
usual. Yeah.
yeah, I might come back to you on that later. I was speaking to Al. I'm kind of interested what your routine is actually on a match day.
Right.
Al,
Okay.
Al Worth is once again here as my
Evening.
co-pilot.
Hi, Steve.
And Mark Pontin, the brains behind the new YouTube operation, has chipped in. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for coming
Evening.
back.
Evening. How you doing?
So, Vince, firstly, I just come to you. We were 2-1 up, not that long to go, and obviously very disappointing in the end to lose the game. What was your take on it?
Oh, it was the last half hour was pretty hard to watch. It was because of our recent defensive record. I thought we might hold out. My concern was our right hand side, and I'm not just blaming Romeo for that. I'm blaming the
Mm,
whole team.
mm,
They swapped Rowe over to their second half, over to his side, and then they brought on Hernandez, and they battered Bowler and Romeo, and they battered Tanner and Romeo, and Siopis won his usual combative self, and I'm certainly not going to criticize him or any of the players. So I thought we were inviting a lot of pressure on ourselves. We weren't quite tenacious in the tackle as we have been in recent games, and it lacked a little bit of intensity that second half. Whether it was because we up to that point we played really well, hadn't taken all our chances, but just thought, well, we got this game in the bag, we got more than enough. That's the players thinking that. Perhaps that's what it was. But I must say, based on the last half hour, I think Norwich deserved it. And we can moan about referees and everything else. I just think Norwich could see that there was a way in to beat Cardiff, and they went and took it. That said, the goals were very disappointing, weren't they? I haven't seen us defend like that all season.
no, no.
So I think for me, looking at it, it was a poor performance, undoubtedly, and I think it was a little bit of maybe a little bit of not arrogance, but a little bit of, oh, we've got this game, we are better than these, and we just let them back in, and we were very poor. I thought some of our play was slow, and we weren't. There was no intensity. We gave up possession too easy, quite a lot of times, and we just won on it. And they were a very poor team. I looked at that Norwich side and I thought, crikey, if we can't beat these today with all them players out, we really, we really should look at ourselves in the mirror. When you think that normally happens, don't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was disappointed with the result because I thought Norwich tried to give us the game in the first hour and we didn't take it. And
Mm,
we had more than enough chances. We're missing a goal poacher, and I'm not, as I say, I'm not going to really criticize any of the players because they all put effort in. But our three strikers, you look at them, Mighty, Ete, Ugbo, they're all. I'm not saying they're bang average, but they all contribute in different ways. But none of them are really prolific. They're not. If you have a Kiefer Moore or even Aaron Ramsey on the pitch, you've got a couple of good balls that come across from Grant, Caldwell, Bowler, cross that 6 yard box. You should be players should be gambling and running in there when you've got wingers like them, and just getting on the end of them. It was 3 tap-ins. If you had a goal poacher there, somebody could have had an easy hat trick if they were on the same wavelength as the wide men. And it's things like that, I think, is where we need to look at. Okay, Carlin Grant had a glaring miss, but he contributes in so many other ways, and I think I'd always play him because he's a real threat going forward. I think we just need to sort out who's going to put the ball in the net for us. I think that's where the issue is, because if we go 3-1 up in that game, they're finished, it's done,
yeah.
and that was the problem. We didn't kill them off. So sorry I
Yeah.
went on a bit there, but
No,
it
no,
was a bit
that's
of a
no.
game of two halves.
Yeah.
You know.
I'll pretty accurate, really, what Vince has said, I think.
Yeah. I just thought we were a little bit complacent. I don't know if the players underestimated Norwich in the same way that we did in the last show, because I was here just reeling
We all
off all
said we
the
were going to
stats.
batter him, didn't we?
I was reeling off all the stats saying they hadn't won away since August when they beat Huddersfield, and they'd lost so many games, and how Wagner was a rubbish manager and all this sort of stuff. Look, like Vin said, I think they targeted, once they knew they were getting something down the right hand side, they definitely targeted that side, doing well. But I don't know, were the players, I said to you before we came on air, Steve, were they a little bit on the beach, international break coming, or going away on Saturday night, Sunday? Were they just thinking 2-1 at half time, or we've got this in the bag? I don't know. There was just something. One of what you say about Siopis, for example, Siopis rather, one of his poorer performances possibly since he's been with us. Just all over the park. It wasn't like a standout player really, as perhaps there has been. Very, very, very disappointed to go into the international break on the back of that sort of performance. But I think it's the third time now, isn't it, where that sort of thing's happened. And hopefully he'll read the right act now when the players get back, and we'll come out now against, I think, Preston's the next game, isn't it? Next away game rather.
Yeah. That's going to be a tough match.
We'll he'll get them back at it. He wasn't happy, was he, after the match in his post press conference? He's normally fairly amiable sort of bloke, but I think that's as angry as we've seen him so far.
Well, I'll kind of bring that to Mark, because Mark, one of the, obviously after the game, he made those 3 substitutions when I think we were winning at the time. He brought off the 3 players, and then we went on to lose 3-2. So some fans have been saying the onus should be on him to some extent for making those changes then, and making all 3. Was it a tactical blunder? Is it fair for him to actually take it out on the players?
Well, it can be argued that he was that Wagner out tactic, he tactically out.
Yeah, like Vince said, actually, I think. Yeah.
They changed 2 at halftime. Then as soon as they started realizing they could get on the right hand side, and we missed Perry NG a lot. I don't think especially the third goal. I don't think the third goal would have got in if Perry NG had been playing. But he also changed his shape as well. He brought on more subs, and the subs we brought on, in my opinion, at that time in the game, maybe he should have put. He's putting Rawls off because Rawls is supposedly tired during games, and he got to watch him because of injuries, etc. But Rawls was combative, and he was still contributing. He didn't look like he'd run his last race when he went off. But then you bring Wintle on, who's kind of the same kind of player as Siopis, but not as good. Let's be honest. And he was just, giving the ball away. He wasn't putting his foot on the ball. Basically, he wasn't controlling the game. We'd lost the tempo. We lost the rhythm. I think that there was the Marlon Romeo Gutas thing there. There was too much space. Marlon Romeo was leaving too much space, and the rhythm had gone from the back line because they don't play together. And I think that as the game went on, he outthought Bullet as well. I mean, yes, you can say the players were complacent, the goals were sloppy, etc. But he outthought him, and fair play to him. He was struggling. He was struggling when he came into the match, and the choices he made, it won Norwich the game. Because they identified the right hand side as being the place where we could get something. They left their centre forward on, who wasn't playing particularly well, the Korean guy. They brought another attacking minded player who would have been a like for like swap, but they left the other guy on and stuck that guy out on the right purposely, because they knew that that they got. And it was a ball over the top, and I was like, you could. I didn't go to the game, but I was watching it back on Cardiff City TV, and I didn't know the result, and I could feel. I knew that they were going to score. You could just feel it. We had no control over the game after about 10 minutes into the second half. That was it. There was no. It was all how and when are Norwich going to get through? How are they going to get through? And the substitutions he made, the Tanner, Colwell, they were all lesser defensive-minded players as well, when he wasn't identifying really where he could have made a change that perhaps would have benefited. For example, he could have brought Panzo on, shoved, pushed the full-backs up a bit, maybe put a bit more pressure on, gone to a back three or something like that. And Siopis wasn't playing it well at all. I would have brought him off, put Wintle on, or even brought Sawyers on to put your foot on the ball, slow the tempo down, stop him from playing. With his experience, even though he's obviously an outgoing player, but he was outthought. The players let him down, yes, but he was outthought as well, unfortunately.
Funny thing was, Vince, before the game, of course, when the team news came through, and of course, you automatically noticed Perry NG's missing. For the 3 games before, I think we scored 6, conceded 0.
Yeah.
I think when we went into that game actually, I think with 5 hours worth of not conceding a goal, But
Yeah.
how much of a difference do you think that would have made? Because that back 4, I've said it before, the back 5 really been kind of picking themselves. Just then the one player's missing. Do you think that kind of just because they're not used to playing with each other? Is that what it is?
Yeah, definitely. What you've got around the pitch is partnerships, right? So if you look at it, if you've got the back 4 have been a bit of a mainstay since the 3-2 loss at Ipswich, okay, and they've performed in them positions really well. Got to know where each other's stands, know where to stand in a set piece, do their homework before the game. They can rely on positioning of each other. Like if you take Jamalulu Collins, he's a bit like Wan-Bissaka. He's great at defending a 1-on-1. He's great at going forward with the ball, taking the player on, and he's got a bit of ball ability for passing. What he gets caught occasionally is out of position. So what you'll see during the game is the likes of Ralls and McGuinness just keeping an eye on that out of position, and they cover him. When you get somebody like, and it's the same with NG. So NG's strengths are he's very aggressive with the tackle, perhaps not as good going forward. His positioning is very good. He can also see stuff coming in through the middle. So if they got a shift across the cover, Jamalulu Collins, NG will go with them. Romeo's probably not used to that. He's not used to the way Cardiff defend and play at the moment. So he's going to get caught out of position. And don't forget, Romeo was a decent player when he had a run of games for us last season.
Yeah.
He's not a bad player, right? But he hasn't played for a long time. And he's never played. When you think he had a couple of games with Collins at the start of last season, and he's never really played with the other two for any length of time. So they're all new to him. He might
that's true.
training on a match day is totally different, okay? Because you don't know, you can guess what the opposition is going to do, but you can't always get it right. And so I think I just think our set piece we kept getting down on set pieces because of that one change. It's a defensive change, and we looked ropey in defense, didn't we?
Yeah.
We looked ropey, and so it had a massive effect. And like Mark said, I think he's brought the same 3 subs on because they've won us the Bristol City game, didn't they? And they've done well in other games against a settled back 4 or 5, as you said, with the defensive midfielders. It possibly would have been better, as you say. I perhaps not would have changed the shape because that team's used to playing with the back 4, but you could have brought a couple of midfielders on instead of attackers to actually protect Romeo, and ones who are defense minded. You could have even put Panzo at right back and push Romeo on, in a little bit into midfield just to shore it up, or the other way around. They're both defensive. They're both defenders. You're plugging in gaps because they shoved 2 players over there. They put 2 quick players over there, Hernandez and Rowe. And as Mark quite pointed out, and Al, is that they managed to get the space between Gutas and Romeo. It was clear all the time. There was, if you notice, one would run the channel, and the other one would just run around Romeo. He probably only was able to cut out 1 or 2 passes. Tanner and Bowler, both attack-minded midfielders, and they had a lot going forward. But we were 2-1 up, and we were struggling. Down that side. So yeah, I think perhaps the manager got it wrong. But yeah, massive for a settled team like we have been. One key player, and NG's a key player because he's good going forward, but in defence he is outstanding and has been for a long time. And he was a big miss. And I don't know how long he's going to be out for, or what the injury is.
Not too long, I don't think.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be too hard on Romeo. We haven't played since Burnley away, and he was pretty poor then, minded with Ojo, if I remember. But yeah, it had a big effect in my opinion, anyway.
Of course, NG was up for Player of the Month, wasn't he? He was nominated for Player of the Month.
He was, yeah, and he's so good in defense. I don't. He reads the game so well,
Class act, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's aggressive. That's the other thing. Nobody likes playing against him. They're always a bit wary.
Yeah,
So
I think tactically, Vince, I've noticed with Perry NG as well. He kind of sometimes sits forward of the other three. He's sort of halfway house between defense and taking forward.
Yeah, but there's a reason for that, isn't there? Is if they get he can cover like I just said. He can cover that. What I was on about. He can come across.
Yeah, I don't think Romeo gets that.
Yeah, because he doesn't, because Jamalulu Collins is brilliant. His one weakness is he gets caught occasionally, not all the time, occasionally out of position. And Perry NG from the position, if he's a little bit forward and McGuinness got to shift across, he gets into Gutas's position. Okay, you might give him a bit of the wide, a little bit wide, but then you've got Siopis who will come out, won't he? And he's normally out covering that area if they get an overload there. And Raul's the other side. And I think the other reason why Raul's may have got subbed, he was on an early yellow card, which affected his game. Yeah. And it was never a yellow card. Never.
No, it didn't look like it, did it?
No.
Al, are there any comments coming in at all?
Yeah, Mickey Villan, who was on with us last week, he's repeating what we're saying really about the subs. He said, we were totally in control for the first 45 minutes. I don't think the substitutions helped at all. And then following up what I'd said earlier about the international break, he said, we haven't won a fixture before an international break since 2020. It's just me and my theory about it, but I could be wrong. I don't want to go. People are allowed a day off, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? But just have it not straight from the match when they're desperate to go away. There we are. We were going on about Perry NG last week, and how important he's become for us. I think he's one of the best footballers in the team. It's very rare that you get a defender who can play football as well as anyone. Romeo came in, he had big boots to fill, and I think that's testament really to how good Perry NG has become. And I go as fast to say I think he's been one of our best players, or certainly our most consistent players this season. And that back four was settled, and it's been a while since we've had such a settled team. And as Vince was saying, Romeo then not playing or hasn't played alongside the other three. Possibly, obviously that's going to affect it.
And your mate Wagner, you're a big fan of Wagner, and he did
it was the kiss of death, wasn't it, last week? I was saying, he's going to get sacked and all this sort of stuff. I know Pete Bradbury said the same, didn't he? This could be his last game in charge and so on, fighting for his life. But I don't think Norwich are as bad as some people then are saying. Right? I really don't. Even with their injuries, there's the Championship right the way throughout. Anyone could beat anyone, and I just think that they executed once they decided upon their game plan, they'd execute it really, really well. They're no mugs.
No, they're good side. The other thing a point I thought helped them was when Stacey come on, he really tightened them up at the back. I thought he made a hell of a difference when he come on late on. We hardly had the chance, and they were much more well organised. So he's one that's coming back from injury. But I looked at their stats at the last game. They'd had a lot of shots, didn't they? At the last, I can't remember who they played, but they lost. But they'd had the lion's share of the ball and attempts on target. So they just were unlucky by the sound of it. So never write Norwich off. I agree with Al.
Although when we went 2-1 up, I said to the guy next to me, "We're going to go on there. We're going to score a few goals here." It looked like it was all going to happen, but there we are.
What was the way in it?
Yeah.
It just felt a bit last season-y, didn't it? Really, I thought the whole, in the second half, I was like, I turned to the boy next to me. I said, God, this just reminds me of last year. Everything was a bit flat.
Yeah, it was a bit flat. Yeah,
like Mark said, it was almost a sense of inevitability that was going to happen. It was strange, really, going in 2-1.
We've had 90 minutes like that, and we had 60 minutes, first 60 minutes against QPR, and last 30 minutes against Norwich. Yeah. So we've had 90 minutes of that type of football, which ain't bad coming from where we've come from last season. It's we've come on the leaps and bounds. The fact
we were on last week, and all of us were saying how brilliant it's been lately. You know, and we don't want to be taking our eye off that. I don't think. You know, we were all saying what a brilliant manager Bullet is, and going through all the players saying how well they've all done. There's not a weak link in the team, and so on. So you know, I don't want to just write it off just yet. But nevertheless, I thought it was a game there to be won. I don't think we battled in the way that we have done, and I just wonder if the players hadn't perhaps given Norwich the respect that perhaps they deserved before the game. I don't know, could be wrong.
I wanted to ask you about something there. It was in my mind there. I was just going to ask you. It slipped me again, so I'll move on. I know what it was. After the game, I was sitting in the traffic and whatever. You know, we sit there for ages, didn't he? Coming out to the match, and Tony Jeffries is on Radio Wales, and it's lovely to hear Tony's dulcet tones again. You know. But he said, Al, and I wonder what you think about this. He reckons that was Siopis' worst performance in a City shirt. He was really critical of him. I didn't think he was that bad, actually. He wasn't as outstanding as he has been.
If I'd be more diplomatic, perhaps, than Tony. It's not difficult. I like him a lot, but it's not difficult. Right. No, I just think that Siopis' his standards have been so high. That's what I would say. I would say he's been excellent every game, and in that game, he wasn't excellent. Put it that way.
And did you see the feature on him on Cardiff City TV where they did the interview of him?
You know, I hope he stays with us for a long, long time.
It's great.
I really think he could kind of. He's got that cult. There's been people down there who had cult status without doing it, without having his personality. I think he was. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, wasn't he? Really was.
Yeah, just so likable and such a character, and like you say, you know, he is a cult hero. And then he was talking about again. I looked down in an article with him when he left the Turkish club, and he said about how all the fans wanted him to stay and all the rest of it, but it was, you know, he'd done everything he needed to do and he was off. So let's hope that you know, situation with Cardiff doesn't happen for some time. You're still a big Siopis fan, aren't you, Mark?
Yeah, he's. We've needed that kind of player since Gunnarsson left. We haven't had that kind of tenacity. I was hoping Ryan Wintle might do it. He when he started getting a run in the team in that kind of position, he was the mopper upper. But he's not in the same league as Siopis, unfortunately. He's got a lot of promise, and he's still younger than Siopis, but yeah. Watching him on Saturday, I think he was just off the boil a bit. You know, I think it got to him. Maybe he made a few mistakes. He gave the ball away a few times. His passes went a few astray a few times, and he tried and tried and tried, but I don't think he could find his rhythm. And you could say that for the whole team, really. I mean, you know, there was a couple of. Like McGuinness was pretty consistent. He
played all right to the end, didn't he?
Great blocks, you know, but you know, Bowler was good going forward. Grant was okay, although he should have scored that one.
Or passed.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that they were all, I don't know, a bit overawed. That's what it seemed. It seemed like they did so well to get the 2 goals to go 2-1 up. And they came out maybe a bit blasé, but I think they were shell-shocked once Norwich started to work them out. Once Norwich started to push forward, they didn't have an answer really, and that's why I think the Bullet has to take some of the blame for it, because he made the wrong decisions, the wrong substitutions. You know, it's but you know, it is what it is. Norwich are very late starters this season, and they should be. Like Middlesbrough was starting off late, they've started to come through now. Norwich, I think they'll be playoff contenders. You know, they surprised me because I didn't recognise a lot of the team. Obviously, they've had a lot of changes and they've lost a lot of the familiar players, but they got a lot of pace in that team. There's a lot of talent in that team, and once they start gelling, I think they'll do well. You know, and maybe we underestimated them. Maybe we gave them too much credit for their short run of poor results. You know, it's.
I think it's the magic of Wagner. You know, that's what it is.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, he's traditionally been not a bad manager. You know, but I think he's he's had a lot of injuries. They've had a lot of injuries there.
They have, yeah.
So
I'm really prodding Al just to wind him up. That's all.
I mean, again, we got to remember we've had a good run, and we went on good runs before, and we all go, "No, this is great, this is great." Mick McCarthy had a good run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yes, I don't think that Bullet is anywhere near as bad as Mick McCarthy or whatever. But once teams start working out, the way we're going to play, we don't have a massive amount of options on the bench in a defensive
not yet, no.
capacity. Looks like we're gonna get rid of Sawyers and Rinomhota in January. So our midfield, Adams hasn't really shown, the consistency that. So if we get Rawls on suspension or we get Siopis on a suspension, and like we saw on Saturday, if NG's injured or if McGuinness gets injured, we're quite still on the ground. It actually worried me a bit as well, because did you see the interview with Dalman when he was asked about transfers?
I might come on to Vince for that in a bit.
Basically anyone's up for sale, and we have to balance the books, and we have to get the money in that's owed before we can buy players and all that kind of stuff. So it might be a long season. I don't think we'll be battling relegation, but I think we'll have to see how it goes.
We've got to get back at it straight away. The next 3 games are all against teams that are above us in the league. Okay, so Preston, West Brom, Southampton. That's why I think it was important to have got a win on Saturday, because we're going to struggle with two of those away games, and then you go into December. We've got 7 games in December. Now, I know we have a busy Christmas normally, but 7 games is almost unheard of, isn't it? That's an awful lot. So going to be big demands on these players now when they get back. 9 games before the end of the year. So there's going to be a lot of hard work ahead of them. I think we got the right guy, like we said last week. I think we got the right guy for them to be doing that right work for. I think he's fantastic. But nothing, these games coming up now, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard.
So there's something else we got to come to in a minute, which I'm kind of looking forward to just discussing, but we'll leave that for now. So Vince, the point that Mark's making there, that because I'm not asking you to sort of reveal any kind of hidden stuff or whatever, but just your opinion really. But it was interesting that Dalman saying the 1st January priority. We're all thinking, I think it's like 7 weeks till we can sign a player. But it's not going to be straightforward. First priority is to comply with profit and sustainability regulations, and it's so important, Vince, isn't it, that we, the financial fair play stuff is like massive, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I don't know. We've had quite a lot of meetings with Mehmet, and I know they've got to get money in from what's happened with Salah, through the insurance, and that will certainly balance the books, and perhaps that's what he might be talking about. But what the other thing I'd like to say is we've spent absolutely nothing, apart from on wages. So we're not. I don't know. It is difficult to balance the book because we do lose so much money, and you're only allowed to lose £39 million over 3 seasons. Like some clubs lose it in a year, and then they end up getting done a year or 2 later, like you've seen the likes of Sheffield Wednesday and the likes. You get the cash in the end. But if you're going to spend money on players, one thing they have learned, Cardiff City, with the likes of ex-managers, I won't name any of them, is not to say you've got money to spend, right? Because, and I'm not pointing the finger at any of them, but all of a sudden, prices get inflated on players. Cornelius, £15 million, Salah, £15 million. I'm not sure. Unfortunately, we never got to see Salah play, and we don't know how he would have fared in the Premier League. But when you look at them, value of them players, and I said 2 different managers there on purpose, neither of them were worth that money, according to the market at the time, but we were prepared to pay that money on 2 occasions. So I get why it may be just not alerting clubs that we might have a little bit of money to spend, because no matter how little bit it is, if they know you've got a little bit, they'll inflate the price. So I think there'll be a lot of wheeling and dealing going behind the scenes. In the Championship, because of the losses you make every month, he is absolutely bang on right. I would say that. It might be that we're not quite there where we can spend some decent money on players yet, because our books are not quite balanced, because we're always on the edge because of the amount of money we lose on a monthly basis. So there's probably an element to truth in it that we're not going to be able to spend lots of money on players, but you will see new faces in. If you wasn't going to see new faces in, we wouldn't be linked with players. We're linked with absolute loads of players all the time, and that's people talking to agents. It's not people just, you do get the white noise where people put stuff out there and say, oh, so and so, just to try and get an interest, but it's too much of it. So we're talking to players. So you will, if the transfer goes all right, you will see new players in there. The problem with the January transfer window is there ain't too much good players available due to everyone in mid-season. They keep an eye. End of January you might pick one or two up if some of the Premier teams haven't had injuries. You could pick up a decent loan, or if they've managed to get somebody in, you might get a second string like a Kiefer Moore if Bournemouth have got like a backup in. I'm only using him as an excuse because he's constantly linked with us. So if Bournemouth get a second striker in by the end of January, you might get Keith Moore for a price that we can afford. At the start of the month, it might not be a price we can afford, and we want to pay for a player. Yeah. So I think that's where Mamet's coming from. He's playing that card that we haven't got much money to spend, so we've got none, and it's the right way to go. I might be wrong, but it happens every transfer window. Every single transfer window, we bring in new players. That's all I say. Tell me the last transfer window where we didn't bring anyone in.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's just, I get why they do it. You don't want to announce that we're going to spend 50 million on players, because the first player you go in for, it costs you 50 million quid. So it's pointless. Absolutely pointless.
You say about Kiefer Moore. Sorry, Vince, this is the sort of thing I look at.
Yeah.
Bournemouth on the weekend, they beat Newcastle 2-0, didn't they? Solanke scored 2. Kiefer Moore wasn't on the bench, wasn't in the lineup, and I'm thinking, right, that's good. I hope they move on to the next game and win and carry on winning. Because what you don't want is someone like Bournemouth to start losing and think, oh, we should keep hold of Kiefer Moore. I'd love to see him back in January.
He'd be absolutely fantastic with them two wingers. I know he was linked in the summer, and there's lots of rumours. Even I've talked to the same people. That's been told the same thing. It's not from the horse's mouth. It's from so and so was talking to so and so. It's one of them. But it hasn't gone away. He's turned down a couple of other Championship clubs who were willing to pay the money, and so if the rumours are to be true, perhaps there is a deal there. Along with this centre midfielder they're trying to get in as well. This other one,
Turkish lad,
hence why, I can't remember his name. Hence why they're probably looking to get rid of Sawyers and Ringamoto.
Oh, Al Hamadi, is it?
Something like that.
Al Hamadi.
Yeah. He's another defensive midfielder. So we've been linked with him. So there'll be a bit of wheeling and dealing, but it won't be like the summer, and it won't be as good as the summer. And that's why I'm happy with where we are. If we progress, we're moaning with 2 points outside the relegations, outside the promotion, playoffs instead of the relegation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So it's a different conversation we're having this season, the last season already. And my expectation is mid-table. I'll give him 2 transfer windows, a little slight improvement in January to the squad, and then next summer go for it. All the finances will be in, and then what we don't want, if we're going to build a team that's going to challenge, that team's got to be able to survive in the Premier League. We've had 2 shots at it at the moment, and we got it wrong twice. And that's because we tried to buy a team instead of build a team.
Yeah.
I certainly trust his judgment from what we've seen so far on incoming transfers. I certainly trust his judgment. I think if he's looking at someone he thinks they're good enough to come in, then I'll go with that.
Do you have any more comments coming in now?
There's been a lot from Jeremy Williams from the Trust. I'd like to kind of go into them, but they're more about, rather than what's going on the pitch, what about the club sort of off the pitch. But they might sort of
is that because Vince is on, do you think?
Into more conversation. He's mentioned about the price of food and drink at the ground, and asked for what our thoughts are, say £3 for coffee and £7 for pizza and so on. This is a great one. Thanks to everyone dropping off donations for the food bank. We'll publicise that obviously before the Millwall game on the 9th of December as well. That's what he said. If anyone can sort of drop off everything, we'll go to local food banks. He's also asked about programme sales. What's the position there? Because they seem to have not had enough to distribute on the weekend. I didn't know that. And how pleased are we all about better fan engagement with the club over the past few months? Again, that's something we touched on last week. I think fan engagement has improved. Fan engagement is also easier when we're doing better on the field, isn't it? Difficult to engage with the fans when everyone's not particularly happy. But do you want to pick the bones out of that one, Steve, or not?
Well, I think I'll hand it over to Vince. See what he wants to respond to.
Program. I don't know what happened with programs because we sell programs in the supporters office, don't we? So they we ran out fairly quick. But there was an issue with their mobile, with the ones in the booths. I don't think their PDQ machines, the car machines, went out. So I think that's where the issue was. People couldn't get hold of them. So I wouldn't mind betting if you get hold of those who missed out on the program. I'm not 100% on this, mind, but I wouldn't mind betting the shop will have a few, because we went and got another 25 or 30 to sell from our outlet in the last 15 minutes from them. So there was programs around. They just couldn't sell them because of they had problems with the PDQ machines. But yeah, they have sold out the 1 or 2 games, which is great, because they were, what was happening before, it was costing them a lot of money. They were getting it wrong. They printed too many, and it just goes away. So they're getting it there or thereabouts. 1 or 2, they have sold out of, but the majority of them, there's only a handful left over, which is where you want to be, really. Not to cost money. Food and drink, it's the same in every ground where Compass are throughout the country. Yeah. And we've done another deal, and we're out as a supporters group. That includes us, the trust, and everyone. We said not to go with them again. You'd be better in control. And they said, "Oh, we're not going with Compass." But when they actually, a couple of years ago, when they came to it, Compass made a lot of promises. They changed ownership, changed the leader, because I think the chap who owned it, I think, unfortunately died quite young, and somebody else took over, and there was a lot of promises made, but they haven't come through. So I think they're regretting that a bit. So their hands are tied on that, and it's way overpriced, for what it is, and for what you get for your money. I've got to be honest. I'm in that camp. I'm in their camp. Fan engagement is a lot better. That's because of the government forcing fan engagement. Sometimes I think it's fan engagement for the sake of it. And I keep criticizing the club because I still don't think they do it well enough and good enough. And I will continue to do that from my supporters club branch. I think it's not as good as it was 20 years ago, when there was different people running the club and different people working there. And I've told them that in meetings. It was easy to improve on previous seasons. It was easy, just and they got a long way to go. I'm not going to criticize them all the way, because they are making an effort. They are trying. They are making an effort. But legislation and constant complaining from us and the trust has probably led to that improvement. But it's not. If we can't rest on our laurels, it's not good enough at the moment, to be honest with you.
But I went to my seat on Saturday. I'm now a safe stander for the first time.
Yeah.
And I've got that barrier in front of me now, and it's fantastic. I got to say, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and
I could see, however, it felt safe, but it just felt better. We all stand where we are anyway, but to have that constructed, if you like, it was great.
The thing with that is, if the club would like to do the whole of that stand, but if they spend all that in one go, that's a player they can't get. That's how tight the money is. That's how tight it is. If they do spend too much money on the ground, they've got to spend X amount on the ground, obviously, to maintain it. But if they do all the barriers in one go, that goes down as a loss, because we're not making enough money to balance the books. And that's why Cardiff when they get there, they try and do the best deal they can with the youngsters that get taken out of the academy, the better ones, so that that's our only chance to make any money, because they're going to go anyway if there's big clubs interested. So you've got to try and do the deal. They don't want to sell them. They'd rather make a couple of appearances for the first team, and then you can sell them for 10, 15 million. Then that's proper money. But they just don't last that long. And because we're not a grade 1 academy or the top academies, they can come and have their pick. But they got to do a deal. But that's it. But that's where we're at the moment, unfortunately. But yeah, fan engagement's a lot better. The club are a lot more approachable, and there's a lot more avenues. But they still got a lot of work to do, in my opinion. And I will keep telling them that every time I go to a meeting.
So I've got to go to Al with this one, because Al is, he's a respectable man of the world, well thought of, very kind of
I
reasonable
feel a bet
character.
coming on.
So I believe on the weekend, that's the first female referee we've ever had.
Yeah. I don't think the fact that she was female had anything at all to do with the performance.
I gave her the opportunity,
I know. I thought she was rubbish, but if she was a he, then he would have been rubbish. I just didn't think
I totally agree.
I don't, I'm not into this saying, it wasn't anything to do with the gender. She was just rubbish.
But because of the gender thing, am I right, Vince? Was that the first female ref? I think it's the first.
We've had a female linesman.
We've had lines people, yeah.
Yeah.
Lines persons.
Sorry, lines persons, yeah. Yeah, it was the first time I had a female ref. It was. I thought some of her stuff was okay. I wouldn't fully criticize her, but she had overall some of the big decisions. She made some errors on, and it never affected the game, in my opinion. We should have won that game in the first hour, right? We should have won that game in the first hour. In that hour, there was one decision that really affected our performance. That was the penalty on Bowler. I was the other end, obviously on the drum. So I always, when it's that far away, I never spout off until I've seen it. Because it's just too far away from the play. And on the replay, anywhere on the pitch, that's a free kick, isn't it? So it was a penalty for me. Take that out of it, that was fine. Where I think she got things wrong was Joe Ralls booking it. He didn't deserve a yellow card that early on. I didn't think it was a yellow card challenge anyway. A warning would have been fine. And there was just inconsistency, which you get from anyone who's new to it. She was obviously nervous.
Hasn't done many games, no.
So you and the thing is, if you want to encourage these people to come on, because without referees there's no football. We've got to try and cut them a bit of slack. They are awful at the moment, and there's so much money in the game. You think, why can't they be a bit more professional about it when they get to this level? But there's so many of them being fast tracked through. They're not having that years and years coming up through the ranks, because of the pace of the game. They've almost got to be youngsters themselves now to keep up with the game. That old wise football heads, who turned into a ref. That's gone. So there's got to be a way around how we train these refs and take the pressure off them so that they can relax and ref the game properly. Whether the support mechanisms in there for them and the training, I don't know. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it's not just her. We've had consistently bad.
Definitely
refs.
Not just her. No.
Yeah, throughout the whole of the season and previous season. Certainly, we've always had bad refs, but never to the quantity we've got at the moment. And I say, are they bad refs, or is it poor decision making in the heat of the battle? And it's the mental. I think it's the mental side of it, because they all know the rules. It's how they call in the game. I think they're being they're probably being overcoached, and they're trying to behave like robots because you've got these assessors on the side trying to do everything by the rule book. And they're not being given that. They're not being given the freedom to ref properly, and they're so afraid to make mistakes. They end up making mistakes. I know that sounds daft, but that's what happens.
So Mark, I go to a football match. I find all the chanting. It's just like being a kid again. I love the childishness of it all. And the she fell over. I mean, that was just beautiful, wasn't it? Really, that bit, right? But putting that to one side, isn't it kind of interesting how we've had some pretty bad refs. I don't think she was any worse probably than a lot of the bad refs we've had, but it became a bone of contention more, Mark, didn't it? It's kind of interesting. She's a female ref, so it's something that people are talking about. However their perspective on it just becomes probably talking about it more than we would have been.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just us that gets bad refs. It's just
no.
a lot of bad refs.
Yeah,
there's a lot of bad refs. I mean, the last few years, it really infuriates me also when there's an obvious offside, but it takes so long for the flag to go up. You know, back in the day, it was you know, almost immediate that it would be ruled offside, and we haven't got VAR in the Championship yet, so the continuity that, you know, the players are turning around to see if the flag is going up, and they're not sure if it is or isn't, and all that kind of stuff. I think it's like Vince said. I think they're over-schooled, and they're coming in with perhaps not enough experience. You know, they should work up through the ranks, etc. And she looked very nervous, very, very nervous, and but she did her best, I suppose. You know, she's got to learn the trade like anyone else, and hopefully she'll go on from this and become a good referee, or she won't be a referee anymore, will she? You know, it's the penalty decision. I mean, you know, yeah, that does seem to happen quite a lot. But you talk to anybody who supports any other team, they're going to be saying the same. You know, look at Liverpool, look at the VAR decisions that have gone on and all that kind of stuff. It's a whole controversial issue, but I just think that I think it, like Vince said, it needs to be more professional, and the way it's going. You know, it's football is so much more than it was even 5 years ago. You know, but the refereeing is kind of gone backwards a little bit, and there's so much consequence that they just get terrified
financially, yeah.
Rather than being good officials, they're worrying about the consequences, perhaps, of making these decisions, or, you know, the instinct is gone as well. It's kind of there's something happens, and then there's too much thought about it, and it's too slow, and maybe the momentum of the game gets taken up in it. When she did fall over, she also got hit by the ball a couple of times, I think, or once or twice. There was a couple of drop ball situations which were a little bit awkward, you know what I mean? But, you know, she's learning her craft, and this is the way it's going to be now. You know, it's going to be integrated. It's not a male only sport through and through anymore. It's going to be female officials and potentially female managers and male teams as well. It's just the way it goes. It's the way it's going, and it's as long as they can do the job, I'm all for it, you know.
Of course. I mean, I just wonder, Al, if she would have got the humor of "she fell over," you know, because it was kind of, you know, it was quite a good line, you know, usually used for blokes, you know.
She's not going to get it, I don't think, is she? I was interested, you know, the Spurs manager, Big Ange, you know, and he said, well, you know, where I'm from, he said, we respect the refs and we move on, you know. If everyone's going on the refs all the time, I'm going to run out of refs. So that's my view. Yeah. Right the way from kiddies football all the way up, you know. I mean, I think some people's behaviour on the touchlines or whatever, they're enabled on it a little bit by people saying, "Oh, say what you like." If you can say what you like on social media, you can say what you like on Saturday afternoon. I don't know. I'm not comfortable with it sometimes. You know, they're doing their best, aren't they? They're doing their best. But I know I'm in the minority when I say that a lot of the time, because people say, well, no, you know, they sing behind me, we always get rubbish refs. That's their favourite chant, you know. I don't think they do. I know these people go, oh, they're against us because we're Welsh and all this nonsense. I just don't agree with it.
There's two things which I think are quite interesting about it. I think, you know, like in most walks of life, really, you know, a woman generally has to be better than a man, you know, has to prove themselves, which is unfair, right? And the pressure on her for that match, you know, surrounded by, even these days, you know, it's a very male environment, you know, it's the pressure on her. But aside from that bit of thoughtfulness, I did think it was a penalty for handball in the second half.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think it was?
I don't think the referee had a very good performance.
No, because the referee was on the blind side and the linesman was the other end.
Going back to what Mark was saying though about, you know, everyone else thinks that that when they're with referees, all the decisions are going against them as well. There's nothing better than being a City fan away from home, and the home fans are thinking all the decisions are going against them. And it happens time and time again. It's one of the greatest pleasures when the home fans are having a go at the referee, and you're sitting there going, "Oh, this is a good ref." No, what you mean is all the decisions are going our way, you know.
Yeah. So we'll park that one up for now. Vince, I wanted to ask you about, it's kind of interesting, you know, Renarson and Panzo, you know, two Premiership players. They're both scratching their proverbials on the bench sort of thing, you know, with the January window coming on. Do you think that situation is going to change in January at all, or
Well, the thing is, unless there's an injury, it won't change because would you change if with NG fit? Would you change that back four? Would you change the keeper?
No,
he's been fantastic.
I
The keeper.
wouldn't. No. Yeah.
Do you know what? Do you know what? I give was it Andy Dibble one? They brought Jack Allen that game, wasn't it? He was there then.
Oh,
yeah, and he got criticised. There was, I think he got criticised by the board as well because he had identified him, but they what's name there? They weren't happy. How right was he? Because he said he said at the time he's a good keeper. Now, and we all thought the same. Oh, we got two average keepers here because I thought what's his name at Hull? I thought he was very susceptible. Also, very susceptible, especially on his near post. I remember the Swansea game where was it 3-2 or 1 over the last season, was it, where they were the late winner?
Yeah.
Two of them he should have saved, he should have. So he was he looked a little bit like him, when you're up in Preston and what have you, and then he but this season he's been absolutely outstanding. I think he's been the find of the season for me, for the keeper, because I didn't think he'd be good enough. Because the Arsenal lad, he come on the first League Cup, he looked all right, didn't he? But against Blackburn, I thought we let in 5. Okay, well, they weren't all his fault, but I think he could have done better on one or two of them. The problem with both of them positions, centre half and goalie, unless you're playing regular, it takes a while to get back into the swing of it. And there was a couple of players I was thinking of that were like that. Sean Morrison, if you ever come back from an injury, 6 games, 7 games before you got Sean Morrison fully back. Darren Pearce was another one, 6, 7 games before you had the real Darren Pearce back. I don't know what it is about centre halves and keepers. If they have a spell out, it just seems to take a time for them to get back in the swing of it, and that's the problem when they're going to come in for an injury. A bit like Romeo, they're going to be found wanting when you've had a settled back 4 or a back 5 with the keeper, like as you say, that back 5 is settled, know each other, and then you're taking one out of it, and they've got to try and hit the road running. So they could end up back at their clubs. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, because they're not good at football.
Because they're both they're Premiership players, so they're not on peanuts, and they've obviously come here to get some game time. So from their point of view as well, do you think they might possibility?
They both probably came here expecting to play, didn't they?
Yeah, Panzer maybe in particular, I think.
In particular, yeah, and for the sake of his own career, he's going to be wanting to play, isn't he? And like Vin said, I think the settle back 4 is the reason for our relative recent success.
Definitely, yeah, and including the keeper, a back 5. They're just
a great thing was I'm a massive Andy Dibble fan. Okay, and he made his debut for us in 1983, didn't he, age 16 or whatever. So he spent his entire life as a goalkeeper. Everything he's done, he's coached all around the place, hasn't he? Except at Accrington at the moment, but I wouldn't surprise me at all if he says someone's a good goalkeeper. Again, it's a judgment I would trust. Disappointed to see him go, actually, but that's for another. That's for another show, I suppose. But I just think, he was a fantastic servant to the club, and when he came back, and I think since he left, he's been very, very, very respectful. Because whether or not he needs the money, but he's at Accrington Stanley at the moment, coaching. At his age, probably not what he actually wants to do. But good luck to him.
Mark, I don't know whether you've seen the news today, but there's 4 candidates for the Rotherham job, and there's a Mr. Harris, a Mr. Lamucci, a Mr. Warnock, and a Mr. McCarthy. Can you help the panel at all make the decision?
Well, I think it's a bit too early in the season for Neil Warnock, isn't it? I think. To be honest, I don't really pay much attention to what Rotherham are doing. Good luck to him. I'd like to see Neil Warnock have another blast. I mean, he's
I would too.
He's good for the media, isn't he, Neil? And he does a good job in keeping teams up. Fair play to him. But if they give it to Mick McCarthy, that's it. They might as well pack their bags.
Well, he's 50-1, so I don't think he's going to get it. Yeah.
Yeah, Lamucci might do a job there. I mean, but they've struggled for a long time, and they're not really getting any better, are they? Rotherham, they're not. They need a miracle really to get out of the relegation fight, and I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think that them and Sheffield Wednesday, I was surprised at Queen's Park Rangers mind, but them and Sheffield Wednesday, they got a lot of stuff to sort out. But this is a Cardiff City show. I don't really care about them to be.
Well, they were all connected with the club. That's the only thing,
Yeah, I know. I mean, I hope Neil Warnock got as a final hurrah.
I reckon it will be Warnock.
As long as it's not, he takes them to the playoffs and we finish 7th because on goal difference or something like that. But good luck to him.
So going back to something you said earlier, Vince, you said about the points difference, just 2 points off the playoffs. So if we'd won on the weekend, I think we would have been 5th. I think that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And now we're 9th, right? And at the beginning of the season, I was out of the country on holiday somewhere, and there was a lad in this Turkish bar. He had a Welsh accent. It turned out he was from Swansea. So we had a little chat, and he said, "Where do you reckon Cardiff are going to finish the season?" I said, "I reckon we're finishing in the top 10." And he laughed at me. Is 9th or 10th, I'm pushing for the playoffs and around about that playoffs. Do you think that's kind of realistically, where we're at? Vince is very thoughtful, and maybe he's buffered out. Shall I ask you the same thing, Al? Do you think we're now 9th? I think.
Yeah.
Are we genuinely a playoff side, or is that where we kind of probably going to end up around about?
I don't think we're in the best 6 teams in the division. Okay. But if we can spend the rest of the season challenging up there, you never know. There's always a surprise team that gets up there. Luton Town being one of them. Do you know what I mean? Look what happened to them. But I just think if we can challenge the playoffs, I think that's a successful. I think that's a successful season. Just to be up there, a lot of people were writing us off at the beginning. I think a lot of that possibly they'd never heard of Errol Bullet and said, "Oh, here's Cardiff City again." They're going to be struggling. No, I think if we can, I'm pleased with 9th at the moment. I got to say, that's where my aspirations lie. It's the limit of my ambition in life is to be 9th, but I think we're all right. Yeah,
I'd take top 10 finish now. To be honest, I think that's pushing.
I think most of us said that at the start of the season, didn't we? You've got to look at the championship this season. It's some absolutely fantastic squads, including Norwich. We would if they get their full squad back, they're another decent squad. And West Brom are starting to win games. Middlesbrough are winning games. It's a tough championship this year. It really is toughest for a long time, in my opinion. It really is tough, and some big clubs with some big squads. Leicester, you have a look what they put on the bench every week.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
They're clearly champions, aren't they? I mean, I can't see them not being champions.
Ipswich on the same points as them, Steve.
Yeah, they are now.
They've only lost one. Yeah. So, but like you say, you got Leicester, Ipswich, Leeds, Southampton, top 4 at the moment, and you can see the top 4 finishing that way. So, and then you got your Middlesbrough always perform well, haven't they? They've had a bad season so far, but they're starting back up. We said it's been the hardest championship for many a season. So we're doing well to still be competing, I think.
Yeah, really well. And
at some point, Vince, at some point in the future, we'll get you on, and we'll talk more about your daily routines at the club and all. I'm interested in all kinds of stuff, but we'll have to come back to that. But we should talk a little bit about Wales because we're into the international break now. So we got a massive game, of course, Armenia away, and then home to Turkey. Do you reckon, what do you fancy Wales to come through and do it?
Yes. I think Armenia got a couple of their main players out, haven't they? And that's if we turn Armenia over, I think Turkey are already. I don't think because they've already qualified. They weren't that much better than us when we played them over there, and that was with 10 men. They clearly deserved to win 2-0, but against 10 men, they struggled against us. So we're not a million miles away from them. And we could it'd be bizarre beating Croatia But
Yeah.
but I know it's on a head-to-head, but to beat them to a qualifier, it would be bizarre. But the crucial game Saturday at Armenia, I'm flying out there Thursday, so
Oh, great.
So I'm looking forward to the next two games, because I was very, very enthused by the way we played against Croatia as well. And I think I possibly, even if Brennan Johnson's available, I wouldn't play him, because we seem to play better without him in the side. I know that's a big call. It's a massive call because he's quality. But if you look at the Latvia game, we struggled and he played. And until they took him off, and then we looked all right. But with Kiefer Moore on, and the way playing with with Brooks and Wilson, I think that looks far more potent than anything we've put together up front since Bale's retired. And with that final of the season is the Birmingham lad in it, Jordan James. So him and what's his name Ampadu in the middle. We got something to be enthusiastic about going into them two games, which I wouldn't have said 6 months ago.
Al, win-win City for Wales,
Yeah, I echoing what Vince said. Harry Wilson, I think, has really come into his own since Gareth Bale's retired. I think he's done really, really, really well. Really impressed with him. He's one of the senior players, I suppose. Now he's over 50 caps, and I've been really, really impressed with him. The lad from Birmingham, I don't think Birmingham fans were as pleased with him as we are, because I don't think he's really performed for them in the same way. They brought in De Silva, haven't they, as well, from Coventry. It's interesting, really, because he played for England all the way up to under-21s, and turns out his nan's from Pontypridd, so they've snapped him up. So I don't know who found that little connection, but well done. I don't know. Is it too good to be true for Wales to qualify?
It'd be great.
I'd say what if we. Yeah, I tell you what, if we do, I don't want to sound bad towards Robert Page, but he would have been the luckiest Wales manager, wouldn't he? If you think about it, and that's no disrespect to him. It's just the way it's fallen, the way teams have fallen, and fixtures. That's winning. We looked the last qualified. We looked out of it, and all of a sudden we won our last two games and we qualified. It could be exactly the same as the last qualifiers, the World Cup. Just win our next two games, bang, and we're in. That is no different.
Any quick comment from you, Mark, on that?
I agree. I think that what I do like about the Welsh team is they're playing. They'll play for Robert Page. They try their best. They got a lot of heart and soul. And I think we'll beat Armenia, and I think we'll do Turkey as well. I think we've got a bit of momentum now. I think it was all doom and gloom, and it was a great performance against Croatia, and I think there's a strong spirit there now, and we got some talented players, and they all seem to lift when they need to be lifting, which is I think the momentum's with us. I really do.
Good. Well, I hope you're right, and I hope moving forward we get more Cardiff City players back in the Wales squad, because we need that as well. Thanks all for tonight. Good